Hi, and welcome to another episode of Recover Loud. I'm Mike Paddleford, your host. I Recover Loud. Tonight's episode, we're going to be talking with Ashlie Reny from Sabattus, Maine. Ashlie has used her program to go from felon to general manager and executive director. Let's see some pictures of Ashley's journey, and then we'll sit down and talk with her.
Doesn't matter where you come from, it's alright. Yeah, yeah. It doesn't matter where you come from, it's alright. Yeah, yeah. It doesn't matter where you come from, it's alright. I came up from the bottom of a bottle with rebels and desperados. It was long days and hard nights, but I had to struggle for my dream, cause nobody else could see it. I was no one to turn to somebody with just a little faith. There's nothing I can achieve. Yeah, I was going the wrong way and then I turned right. But if I could be anybody, I wanna be me. Cause it don't matter where you're from, only matter where you going. Nobody giving me none, I'm placing a bet on myself and I'm all in. I got the mind of a broke man, mixed with the heart of a lion. I'ma keep giving my all, cause that's just who I am. But if I could be anybody, I wanna be me. Yeah, I just wanna be.
Hi, my name is Ashley Reny and I recover loud.
So we're sitting here with Ashlie Reny from Sabattus. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I've been in recovery for a little over 6 years, and I'm excited to share my experience, strength, and hope today. I am the executive director of Journey House Recovery. We operate 5 low-barrier houses across the state of Maine, kind of spread out, Androscoggin County, Cumberland County, York County. And again, we provide housing for people in recovery. They are MAT houses, so I do that on a daily basis, phone calls, emails. I talk to the program directors of each house. We have someone who is either living close by one of the houses or who lives in the house that does the daily operations. I still attend AA meetings, do the step work. My kids keep me busy. They're, one of my biggest motivations to keep doing it and, keep living a happier, healthier life.
Yeah. I just want to talk about the sober houses for a minute because it's very important. It's a great resource for our community. What's the breakup? Are they mostly women's houses? Men's houses?
So we have 3 women's houses and we have 2 men's houses. We have a women's and a men's in Sanford. We have a women's house in South Portland, and then we have a women's house in Auburn and a men's house in Lewiston. Okay. So like I said, they're pretty spread out.
Yeah, and it's needed. There's not enough sober houses in the state. There's not enough detoxes in the state. Beds in general. Are there any openings in any of the houses right now?
The Lewiston house stays pretty full. It's a smaller house. We do have openings in Sanford right now. We'll be moving the women's house to a bigger location come the beginning of April. So right now it houses 5 women, and we should be bumping it up to around 10.
I don't want to say there's enough men's houses, but there's more men's houses than women's. So
absolutely.
Every time I see a women's house open up or expand, to me that's great.
Definitely.
So, we appreciate the work you're doing there. What else do you do with your time?
I'm the general manager of Sabattus House of Pizza, which ironically, being a convicted felon, the owners are a lawyer and an Androscoggin County sheriff. So I like to share that because it's pretty crazy from, going from running from the law to now, working side by side with an officer. I like to be outside. My boyfriend and I go on his motorcycle a lot in the summer, bring the kids outside in the snow. They love to be outside too, so that's nice. I'm a very outdoorsy person. Like I said, go to meetings. Nothing like too crazy. I'm pretty busy all the time between the kids and, the recovery houses and working on my own recovery and stuff like that. So try to get out when I can.
Yeah. And it's amazing the things we get to do once we find recovery.
For sure. And just enjoy doing,
right.
And be present for things like that. So
So yeah, that's quite a story, going from a convicted felon to a general manager and executive director. Can you tell us a little bit about what life was like back when you were getting arrested and spending time in jail?
Definitely. So I was 19 and I lost my father to suicide. And about a year after that is kind of when everything started going downhill for me. I had, was hanging out with the wrong people, and they're like, oh, here, try this pill. And it was like the initial aha moment. I was like, wow, this is, great. Takes everything away, all the pain, the bad feelings. So just from that point, it was just, off and running. I had tried, all of my 20s were running the streets, getting arrested and all that stuff. I tried, a few times in between that to get sober and, tried different programs. My family sent me to Florida at one point for, rehab. I stayed down there for a year, did, fairly well. I wasn't in the work. So within 2 months of, moving back to Maine, it was right back to the same, song and dance. So that was most of my 20s. I've been arrested, more times than I can count on probably my hands and my toes. Like I said, just off and running. I did pills for a long time and then couldn't find them one day, switched to heroin. By the end of my using, I was, smoking crack all the time too. And my last day getting high, I overdosed. I was in the vehicle with my grandfather. And I had asked him if he could run into the store and get me cigarettes. So I did my thing while he was in the store because I felt awful. I was so dope sick. It was crazy. And I remember just pulling into the driveway because we were about 10 minutes from where, we lived. And I fell out. And my grandmother, who was sick at the time, had Androscoggin, like home health, that would come in. And her nurse was supposed to come the next day, but she had called and said, oh, I'm in the area, someone canceled, can I come now? So her RN happened to be there. My grandfather ran in the house, I can't, wake Ashley up, I don't know what's going on. So she came out and performed CPR on me a few different times. She'd get me breathing again, I'd stop. So she kept working on me till the paramedics got there, and then they Narcaned me 3 times. I finally came to in the ambulance. They had called my mother at work, and she got into a car accident, rolled her truck into a ditch, trying to get to me. So it was, at that point, I had been to jail, I had been on probation, I had, been in some scary places, but none of it really ever affected me. I'm just like, this is my life, and better get used to, being in crappy places and doing bad things, because this is just who I am. And then that day was like, okay, I almost killed myself. I almost killed my mother, for that fact. So
no matter how low we think we are, we can sink lower. And even with an overdose, that seems like it should be the bottom, but
I think that's the craziest part of telling that story of the day that I almost died, is that my first instinct was to check my pockets to see if they had taken my stuff, and they didn't. My clothes were all cut, and from them working on me. And when I got home from the hospital, I did stuff out of the same bag, but just, did less, hoping, which thankfully I didn't overdose again. But that was my thought process then. And I'm like, now that's so crazy, to think that was my biggest worry.
Right, and it doesn't even make sense.
No, it doesn't at all. It's like, wow.
Yeah, and there's so many times, so many different things I can think of in my own journey that I'm surprised I'm alive.
Absolutely.
I'm surprised that my children are alive. I put them at risk so many times. And I did things that could have led to the tragic end to so many other people. And by the grace of God, I'm still here, my family's still here, and I have this chance to recover. Because of that, I'm able to help other people. I'm able to share stories with your story with a bunch of people, because these stories make a difference.
Absolutely.
We lost 636 Mainers last year. The year before was 503, and the year before that was 316, I believe. So I mean, the numbers are not getting any better. But our efforts haven't decreased. Narcan is working at reversing an overdose. People's lives are being saved. Advocacy work is working. People's lives are being saved. But it just doesn't feel like enough.
Yeah.
So sharing these stories, and yours is a great example where Narcan was necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Narcan worked, and because of that, we have you contributing and sitting in the position you're at.
Absolutely.
And even just being in the community. What's it like working at the House of Pizza as a person in recovery? Do people ask you? Do you share that with people?
Yeah, I'm pretty open, and I've always been pretty open about my time in recovery, and I get judged for it, you know what I mean, or not my time in recovery, I guess my past, but it's, I guess, the risk that I'm willing to take to, like you said, help save lives, and you know what I mean. It's the saying, if I can do it, you can do it. You know what I mean? Because I didn't think at one point that I could do it, and it's like even. I detoxed in a sober house with no, medication when I first came into recovery, and I was still, oh, well, I'll do this. It was more of, I was on like my third probation violation.
Wow.
So it was like my way to not go back to jail. So at first it was like, I'll pick and choose what I want to do. You know what I mean? I'm not going to listen to everybody. They might know what they're talking about, but I don't know for sure if they do. So
it was the same with me. It never worked last time.
Right.
I listened to myself.
Yep.
And then finally, when I was, came to the conclusion that maybe I don't know as much as I think I do.
Exactly. I know a lot about the things I shouldn't know a lot about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, but that's that experience that we've gained in the darkest times of our lives, because we're able to share it today.
Yep.
It's effective at helping people.
Yeah,
so.
And even saying that, I'm doing a recovery show. I have had so many people reach out, send me the link. And I mean, everybody in my life is super supportive, you know what I mean? And like I said, it's something that I'm always willing to share and talk about, because like we talked about before we started recording, if it, saves or helps one person, you know what I mean? It's such a huge thing.
This show became a way to, share the message with more than one person, and having stories like yours make this show, worth having. So, what are some of the greatest accomplishments that you've had since entering recovery?
I would probably say my children, for sure. I think that's one thing that I am grateful for every day, is I see so many people, whose kids have seen things, and, and I can't imagine, it's got to be difficult not only to work on yourself, but have to rebuild, a relationship with your kids and, stuff like that. So I have mass amounts of respect for, people like yourself and, your wife that pulled themselves out and, have put their family back together, and I guess I always think about, the day when I'll be telling my kids my story. They're still pretty young now, almost 5 and 2, but, it is something that I'll share with them one day. So I would say them and work. I've always loved working in restaurants. I've always been a waitress and a bartender, and then got this opportunity, and it was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. Like it's a small pizza shop and stuff, but it's big for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I enjoy doing it. I enjoy the people that I work with, and honestly, just waking up every day and, not having to think of how I'm going to get my stuff today. What am I going to steal? Who am I going to hurt? You know what I mean? Or whatever the case is, just being happy and healthy, and I still have bad days, of course. Life still happens, but I have those tools now to be able to work through it without, having to pick up a drink or a drug. And I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And, it always amazes me when I speak to somebody with, 6 years in recovery. A lot of people at that time think, well, I've already done the 12-step program. Mm-hmm. I did my part. I don't need that anymore. What keeps you going back to the 12-step program?
I know now, like we were saying before, we, know so many bad things before we come into recovery. And now I know so many good things, and so many good things have come from not only being in recovery, but continuing to work, do the work and work on myself. And, I know that if I get that mindset of, I can skip it this week, or, I'll get rid of my job at the recovery houses, or, you know what I mean? I won't do step work this week. It turns into weeks, and then months, and then years, and I know myself now, and I know that if I do that, I'm not going to last very long. I'll be right back out there doing the things that I used to do.
Yeah, and that's what they mean when they say the slip happens before you
Yep.
pick up a drug, because it's the mental breakdown of it all. The demons are starting to win again.
Mm-hmm.
Even the smallest victory for them, can affect us.
Absolutely.
And allowing that over and over, just to slide to, and that's why recovery is a journey.
Mm-hmm.
We may have, and in these 12-step programs, we start. Day one is when we put down the substance. Every day after that is the work
Yep.
to change our lives so that we don't go back to the substances.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of work, and I respect people who, like yourself, go 6 years continually doing the work, giving back to the community, and seeing the value in sharing your story. Because when we recover loud, people hear it, people get that hope, they get the resources, and as you said, if I can do it, so can you. And
Yep.
Looking at you today, people probably wouldn't guess
I get that quite
where
often.
you were at, at your lowest. But we've got photo evidence
Yeah.
of how low it was for you.
Yep.
And did you imagine when you were growing up that you were going to become a felon, and you were going to be addicted, and that your life was going to go that far?
No. I mean, I don't even think in my wildest dreams I could have imagined that I would have, been doing some of the things that I've done, you know what I mean? And my dad was an alcoholic, and I'm so much like him in so many ways, and I like to think that I'm kind of doing what he couldn't do. I've not had the, suicidal thoughts or, anything like that, but as far as just, my mom always gives me heck because she says I show no emotion and and stuff like that. So, and that's, how my dad was. But I think that, like I said, I'm just doing, what he couldn't do. And I think that's some of the drive that keeps me going too, because he was sober for quite a while, 16 years, and then picked up the drink again. And then 2 days later, took his life. So it's.
So have you forgiven your father?
I have. It took me a long time, and I always blamed my using on that. Well, my dad died, and I have a younger brother who also lost his dad, and he's the one that actually found my dad coming home from school. He was 16, and he's a helicopter pilot and a plane pilot, was in the military, you know what I mean? So I always thought, like, why did I go down such a bad path? He had it worse than I did. And not that it's, tit for tat, or you had it worse and I, had it better, nothing like that. But it's just one of those things that it took me a while to, we have the same birthday. I was definitely a daddy's girl. But I numbed myself for so long that I never gave myself the chance to deal with it. It just was always pushed way down as deep as it could go, And like I said, it was my excuse for a long time to make bad choices. And now I see that wasn't the reason that I kept using. I just used that as my reason, if that, makes sense. But it wasn't easy. It's still not easy, it's my dad. But I've definitely come a long way and, come to terms that he just wasn't happy, and it's what he felt, he needed to do.
Yeah, and I mean, you did describe him as an alcoholic. So without knowing him, and being a sick person myself, I can understand and see other people for the sicknesses they have. So even though their actions are, may seem, unexplainable, unforgivable, knowing that they were sick and they suffered with something that led to that, it kind of puts it all into perspective. And, we're going to find an excuse. And, in the beginning, of course, you weren't thinking that your life was going to lead to where it did.
Right.
You just wanted to not feel that pain, and, as a result of that, it led you down that road. And now in recovery, you've been able to turn it around, and you're giving back. And, do you feel that, forgiving your father was important for your recovery?
Absolutely. It was a big part of that. I think just dwelling on it, you know what I mean? It's like even the few times in between that I tried to get sober, it was, I always like, poor me, made myself feel bad, like, you might as well just go back to doing it because you're never going to get this, type thing. And I think that it really was a huge part of my recovery. And not to say that, when he passed away, that's why I started using, but I think that also had it was a big part of why. I just didn't want to feel those feelings.
Right.
Not that it was his fault or anybody else's fault, but I didn't want to deal with it. You know what I mean? And that was my way of not dealing with it. So
it was the situation happened. You didn't know how to deal with it healthily.
Right.
And you chose. And a lot of times we misplace that onto the person.
Yeah.
The only other question I have about that is, have you been able to forgive yourself?
I have. I think, it took me a few years for sure, even, after being sober for a couple years, but I have. I just know that if I, again, dwell on those things, it's going to put me right back to where I was. And I know that a lot of people, like my family and stuff, those are the trust and the relationships and the forgiveness is all stuff that I had to earn back. And I've done that, and it's a big thing. My mom used to hide her purse or make sure she didn't have, money laying around when I was over. And a couple months ago, she forgot her purse in my car, and I brought it to her the next day. And it wasn't, it's like little things like that I recognize. And it's maybe not even something that she recognizes, but I'm like, wow, that's a big thing. Like that, earning that trust back and being able to have that relationship with my family again, and them not having to worry if I'm gonna die or steal from them, or what phone call they're gonna get next.
Yeah. We do strive for that, the family healing, the forgiveness. As you mentioned with my family, with my children, gaining their forgiveness and support. And we have been able to do it, but, it didn't happen overnight.
Right.
It's the constant work, the effort, proving ourselves. And a lot of times that's just, for me, it's proving it to myself.
Right.
And once I forgave myself, I was able to forgive others. And once I'm able to, see my own progress, I can project that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm not beating myself up over the stuff.
Right.
Even though I've done horrible things, I've done the work necessary to at least earn that forgiveness for myself.
Yep.
And, that's what's keeping me, going. And so I think that's a really important thing. And I'm glad to see that, you have reached that.
Thank you.
Because I think the work that you're doing is valuable. Lori actually was impacted by your recovery. She was one of the first girls in the Auburn house, and the lessons that she learned there were valuable even today.
She taught me many lessons too.
Yeah.
So we helped each other.
Right, and that's
what we do.
That's how this works.
Yep.
And that's why just we say helping others helps us, and that's how we learn from each other things and experiences that we may not have gone through ourselves,
Right.
but we see it in other ways, in other people. And, again, that's the importance to Recover Loud, because, people need to know that, what they're dealing with isn't, they're not the only ones.
Right.
A lot of times we think there's no way that somebody has gone through something this bad.
Right.
And, what we find out is, it happens more often than we think. People just stay quiet.
Yeah.
So
My thing was always, people don't know how I feel, or they don't understand me, so, or they don't have it as bad as I do, for sure. That was definitely my thought process for a long time, so.
Yeah, and it's great sometimes that when we turn it around, we end up having it better than we ever thought we could.
Yes,
or would.
For sure.
I know the things that I'm doing today, I question whether I deserve it all the time, and it's very humbling, and that's my goal, just to remain humble, because back when I believed in the power of Mike, things didn't work out very well, so I put my faith and my power in a higher power, and I just do what feels right, and making those decisions. So for me, life today is better than it ever was. I think you mentioned before that your life, you've never been happier, and so it's all thanks to our journey, our recovery journey. Deciding to get away from that stuff brought us to where we are today, and the work that we personally put in brings us to the points that we're at today.
Tonight, we're going to introduce a new segment where T and I check in with our guest. A weekly check-in is helpful to hold ourselves accountable and keep us focused to our dreams and goals. Today, we're going to have a little check-in with Ashley and our director, T. Farr. A check-in is a good way for us to become accountable to ourselves and to others who may hear what we have to say. It's not important so much for the other people, but for ourselves, when we say it out loud, it becomes real. So the way the check-in works is, we'll discuss something that may have happened good for us over the last week, and then something that we're looking forward to next week. It may be a challenge for us, or just something we're looking forward to. T.
Hey guys, I'm T. This week I have had a couple of job opportunities with Ryan Page and his wife Cynthia with Access Recovery Direct, and also filming a documentary for my job, Good Shepherd Food Bank. And next week, the thing I want to accomplish is I'm going to be training to be a recovery coach.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Good for you.
Yeah. Ashley, anything good happened for you this past week?
Oh, let's see. I'm Ashley. I would say I got to spend more time with my kids. My work schedule wasn't as crazy, so for me that's something good to happen. Next week, probably the same thing, hopefully, spending time with my kids. We have some new stuff that we're doing at work, and we are going to be moving the women's house in Sanford, so a couple good things.
Yeah, that's some great stuff to look forward to. For me, this week has been up and down. The show has been getting a lot of great reviews. I've been contacted by a few different people that want to support the show and sponsor the show, and I'm excited about that. As I mentioned before when we started the show, it wasn't something that I expected to really last, or for people to really watch. So I appreciate every one of you for joining us and continuing to watch the show. And that's just really exciting that, to have these private organizations reaching out, to help make this show better,
Absolutely.
So to me that shows that we are making a difference.
Yes.
Next week is, it's always so challenging. The week before, I have one day off, Sunday, and I look forward to that. And it might be a little too early to look forward to next Sunday. But, just putting in the work to follow through with those contacts and, have those conversations with the different organizations to try to make this show better. I didn't expect it to make it till 10 episodes. T, you joined us when, right at the right time. Lori got a job and she wasn't able to make it here on Saturdays anymore. So I appreciate you jumping in, and I think you've been doing a great job.
Thank you.
And I'm grateful for you for that.
Thank you.
I'm grateful for people like Ashley who want to come here and share their stories. Again, because, this was just a silly idea I had, and, it's making a difference. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
T, is there something you're grateful for today?
I'm grateful to be sober again. It's my first time in my adult life. I'm 35, so on the way here, I was just feeling so grateful that I could drive myself here, and I didn't need a ride. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm going to record a show. I'm the director, so like everything, really just everything.
Yeah, thanks. How about you, Ashley?
Kind of the same thing she said, just to be here, and you know what I mean. Who would have thought? I didn't.
Right.
Like I said, a little over 6 years, and it's still crazy and mind blowing. And you would think, I guess, after 6 years it wouldn't be, but it is. So just to be happy and healthy, and just to wake up every day.
Well, how long did your addiction last?
About 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of my 20s.
Yeah, and that time flew by so quick. I'm sure.
It's crazy.
And, now, so hopefully your recovery continues on the trajectory, and I know the work you're doing is making a difference, and just putting yourself out there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again, guys, for watching another episode of Recover Loud. It can be seen on PMC, Channel 5 in Portland, as well as on our YouTube channel, Recover Loud. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on our posts, as well as hitting that subscribe button. This week, we reached a milestone. I was shooting for 100 subscribers. T put in some effort for us, and we're at 130 right now. So thank you all, and we'll see you next time.
Recover loud.
Recover Loud.
Recover Loud.
Like snort. So every time I call, you pick up the phone, and always reminding me that I'm not alone. And even when I'm scared and my feet are frozen, you help me keep it going like a semicolon. Every time I call, you pick up the phone, and always reminding me that I'm not alone. And even when I'm scared and my feet are frozen, you help me keep it going like a semicolon. So I'ma follow your steps for all of the way. I put my faith in you and walk on the waves. And if I stumble a bit and fall on my face, you come and save me with all of your grace, yeah. Thank God.